What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the review space. In this video, I am going to take a look at a ListChallenges.com. This is going to be the top 100 greatest PS2 games of all time. And basically, the premise of this is how many have you played? You know, it's basically like a challenge. Like, how many of these games have you played? Have you owned? Etc. And I'm going to give you my opinion on this top 100 greatest PS2 games from, I guess the source is Metacritic. You know, so this is all like Metacritic.com. I guess there would be either really high scores from the critics, and this would be, this is an epic list right here, and I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts on every single one of these games. And as somebody who is a big fan of the PS2, I have 3 slim PS2 consoles, you know, just in case like one breaks down. I got a couple of backups. That's how much I love the PS2. That's how much I like playing it and enjoy the games. And I have a pretty good collection for my in my opinion. So anyway, let's go take a look at this list right now. Coming in at number 1, how many have you played? Coming in at number 1 is Grand Theft Auto 3. Okay, well, GTA 3. This one, this epic game from Rockstar. Now, this is the first game, right, that is in the 3D GTA games. This was the first installment in the 3D series. And I was exposed to this game when it came out really early on, in the early 2000s. I believe it came out first in, I want to say 2001. So I was exposed to this game very early when I was way back in high school. And maybe I think I was around grade 9. But I never really extensively played it, you know, so I never got to really immerse myself in this game. So I have a very limited experience with this title, but from everything that I understand, GTA 3 is not only one of the most influential games of all time, as far as the open world or pseudo-open world, where you're in a massive city and it's like a third-person shooter. You're fighting other criminals, and you're basically a little thug or whatever, you know, a little wannabe gangster, and you're roaming around this giant Liberty City environment. And so, and the epic soundtrack, you know, the music is nice. They got like music from different musicians and artists, and pop music and rap music and rock music. And without GTA 3, I mean, where would we be in terms of gaming? There would be no Vice City, which is one of my all-time favorites, San Andreas, which is probably the best installment out of the 3 original 3D games, you know, in that particular series. And so I really did enjoy San Andreas, GTA Vice City, but without GTA 3, the first one. I gotta stop saying the first one, because it's not the first GTA game, but you know what I mean. It's the first one in the 3D series. So it's not a bad choice for number 1, but as far as me actually talking about the overall greatness of the game, I can't tell you. The closest would be like Liberty City Stories, you know, from I have it on the PSP, and that's like I think that's a prequel to GTA 3. That's the closest game that I have to the GTA 3 experience. So unfortunately, I can't say yes or no to the very first choice that they have. All right. Coming in at number 2 is Resident Evil 4. Oh boy, you guys know how I feel about this game. This is one of the most overrated games of all time, in my opinion. But, that being said, it is not a bad game at all. It's actually a really solid action third-person shooter type of game with some horror, survival horror elements. And a big departure from the original style of Resident Evil, that is basically like a set camera angle, and it's a lot slower paced and a lot more methodical. This one is more action oriented, and it did good business. It did excellent business, I should say, for Capcom. This was, however, as a PS2 game, I think that from everything that I understand, it is better suited for the GameCube. And even the icon here, the little logo here, I should say the picture is on the GameCube. You know, it says right here, only for Nintendo GameCube, which is, you know, that's BS, because Resident Evil 4 came out on multi-platforms. It also came out on the PS2, even though that they initially advertised it as a Nintendo GameCube exclusive, which is absolutely false. That was a Capcom mistake. I believe that was a marketing mistake, or some kind of some kind of deal where they were supposedly Nintendo GameCube was going to get some Capcom exclusives, a bunch of games. I think one of them was called like PS03 or another one of those weird titles that's kind of rendered obscure now. Some other game, I think it might have been Beautiful Joe, and then this one, Resident Evil 4, which of course, Beautiful Joe and RE4 are not, from what I understand, they're not exclusive to the GameCube. So regardless, the GameCube version is probably the best simply because it ran really well on the GameCube. The GameCube is a slightly more powerful system than the PS2. And so in terms of processing the graphics and the frame rate and everything, I'm sure that the GameCube version is a better version overall than the RE4 on the PS2 version. But the PS2 version is still pretty solid as far as a nice little romp. Not much else to say. It is overrated in my opinion, so I wouldn't put it in number 2. I would probably put it in maybe in the top 20, top 30, something like that, but not in the top 2. So I gotta disagree with that one. Number 3, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Oh my goodness. Well, I do have this game. I really do enjoy it, and I think it is a very solid, no pun intended, it's a solid game in the Metal Gear Solid franchise, in the series. I enjoy it. I play it mostly for the little mini games and the little missions, like the bonus missions that they have, where you sneak around and stuff like that, and you're fighting, not fighting, but you're competing against a CPU, and you're trying to complete these mini missions. I like that. I could never really get into the actual storyline. I enjoyed the original Metal Gear Solid a little bit better, the one that came out on PS1. I enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 4 a whole lot better than Metal Gear Solid 2. Even though that one had so many cinematics. So I gotta say that Sons of Liberty is a game that it is a very good game, but I wouldn't recommend it for the story because I just could not get into it. The single player mission it gets really boring for me, and I stopped playing it after after maybe an hour and a half. I could never really finish it at all. It's one of those games that I cannot complete it. I cannot continue playing it because I get so tired of it. So as far as it being number 3, well, this is supposedly it's according to the Metacritic. So it's a great game. I don't know if I'd include it in the top 3 at all, or even in the top 10. Just like with Resident Evil 4, I'd probably include it in maybe the top 20, top 30. Alright, number 4, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Alright, you got GTA San Andreas, and you guys know that I really do like this game. This has been released on multiple platforms, not just the PS2, but it did come out first on the PS2, and then later on, I think the Xbox, and then the Xbox 360, the HD re-releases and all that, I think also on the PC. But San Andreas is a very solid, very immersive, long game on the PS2. There's just so much things to do as far as the mission itself. It's a very long mission. You go to different cities, very wide, expansive worlds. If there's one thing that I don't like about it, is that eventually, after a while, I sunk like maybe 30 or 40 hours in this game, and then I just got tired of it. I never really beat it or finished it. I think I got up all the way to the Las Vegas area, and then I just got kind of tired of it. I got into this place where I had to fly an airplane. I was forced to learn how to pilot an airplane, and I was like, oh man, this is just, it wasn't working for me. The controls felt kind of busted. It was just kind of broken controls. But for what I experienced, for how many dozens of hours that I first played it, it was quite enjoyable, and it is definitely a fun game, and also kind of a rare game, because it featured an African American character as a protagonist, a black character, which is still relatively rare to this day. It's got kind of like a hip-hop theme to it. It's got like the hip-hop music and everything. I guess it's supposed to be loosely based on maybe some LA-based gangs. I don't know if it's like the Crips or what, but a solid installment. You can't really go wrong with it being in the top 4. I personally, I might put it in the top 10. Maybe not as high as number 4, but I mean, it is a very, very strong installment for sure. You definitely get a lot of bang for your buck with this one. And you compare this game to other Rockstar titles, and this game just has so many things to do. And it's one of those games that you kind of wish that they would go back to as far as remaking it. And maybe you can argue that in GTA 5, GTA V, right? They went back to kind of the same locations and the same setting, but in a more updated 2000, I guess it was 2013 when GTA 5 came out. This one is 2004, if I'm not mistaken. So, but this one is set in the 90s. San Andreas is set in the early 90s, I think. Whereas GTA 5 was more modern. So, but between GTA 5 and San Andreas, I would say that San Andreas has a little bit more charm, and of course GTA 5 has the better graphics and everything. But San Andreas might have like better music. I'm sure it has better music. It had a better soundtrack. It had more charming characters. It was just a more memorable, a cooler installment in the franchise. Number 5. Oh, here we go. Rockstar has dominated this list so far. GTA Vice City. My personal favorite GTA game of all time. Even though I can never really get too far into it, my copy, for some reason, keeps bugging out. It keeps freezing at a certain point. There's a point in the game where I have to chase an enemy on a motorcycle. And my character, not the character, but like the game just keeps freezing. So my copy of Vice City, I don't know if this is the bugged copy, but regardless, this is the first GTA game that I ever really played too, like extensively. I remember playing this the first time, and I was like, this is awesome, this is amazing, the music was so dope. And I gotta be honest with you, the first time that I played this, I was a little bit, it took me a while to get used to the controls. It took me a while to get used to the gameplay. It was a little bit more, it was just a little bit awkward for me controlling the vehicles and everything, especially the motorcycles. Those ones where you just fall off the moment that you hit somebody, and you're going pretty fast. You're going maybe 100 miles an hour or something on a motorcycle. Maybe not that fast, but you hit something and then you fall off so quickly, and you're so frail on a bicycle or on a motorbike, I should say. Yeah, if I said bicycle, I meant a motorbike, motorcycle. But Vice City, great music, definitely easily the best soundtrack in the entire series. You got that 80s new wave in the 80s, 1980s neon colored influence. Very, very cool. That Miami flavor, those pink colors and bright blue and bright pink, and it just has so much style to it, I should say. Very stylistic. I was going to say atmosphere, but it captures the 80s atmosphere really well. Definitely a solid entry into the top 10. As far as being number 5, it's solid. It's a pretty good choice for number 5. Maybe I'd put it a little bit higher on the list, or lower, I should say. Maybe it'd be like number 9 or number 10 or something for me. Number 6, Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. Oh man, I completely disagree with this one. I talk about one of the most overrated franchises of all time. I used to have this game on the PS2. This is one of the earliest games that I ever had when I got the PS2 the first time, and this was so boring. This game is a boring simulator racing game that is more similar to something like what is that Forza series. You got the Xbox 360 Forza games, and it originally came out on the Xbox, and Sony has the Gran Turismo series. I know GT came out first. It came out on the original PS1 and stuff like that, but aside from, okay, it has great graphics. It got great graphics, great music, solid music. Gameplay is boring. This is one of the most boring series, and to this day, I have no clue why it's so popular and people keep buying it. I guess because they like the simulator, but not me. When it comes to racing games, I prefer other racing games. I prefer street racers like Burnout, or kart racing games like Sonic All-Stars, or Crash, or Mod Nation Racers, anything like that. Mario Kart, yeah, even something like I'd rather play the what is that? That jet skiing race mini game in the Dead or Alive series, in Dead or Alive Extreme 2, the one that came out on the Xbox 360. I'd rather play that. That's a more fun racing experience than GTA 3. It's just not fun. A-Spec, more like Ace Hole. Terrible. Ugh. Number 7. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. Oh man, I got barely like limited experience with the Pro Skater series. I understand that they were like really solid skateboarding games, and they do look like, you know, when they first came out, they looked really sweet and really fun, and like it was a heck of a series because it brought skateboarding to a new level. It felt epic. It felt great. It was like the gameplay was dope. My experience though is very, very limited. I think I played one on the Game Boy Advance a long time ago, which was it wasn't a bad game. And then as far as the 3D series, I mean, I got like Skate 3 or one of the skate games on the PS3, so I'm enjoying the heck out of that. But this one, the Tony Hawk series, it kind of passed me by, you know what I'm saying? I kind of missed out on the Tony Hawk hype, even though I heard so much positive things about it. Pro Skater 4 especially, and you know, the Pro Skater series was really impactful back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so, I mean, I can't tell. I mean, it's number 7, so I think a lot of people enjoyed it as far as one of the best skating games of all, skateboarding games, I should say, one of the best skateboarding games of all time. But I have very, limited experience with it, so I can't really say much. I mean, if it's number 7, it's got to be one of the best, but maybe not for me. I have played the other Tony Hawk series. I played. I think I had like Project 8. I had the Underground, like Underground 1 and 2. I think I have, do I have any other ones? Anyway, like, those games are fun, but I wouldn't say that they're amazing games, you know what I mean? So if it's anything like Pro Skater 4, maybe those games are received a little bit less, so I don't know if I'd still consider it, like, in the top 7, you know what I'm saying, or the top 10. Alright, number 8, Devil May Cry. Whoa, wow, the first Devil May Cry. Pretty awesome game. I quite enjoyed it. It's one of those games that you struggle at first. Like, I remember struggling at first trying to beat the game, but eventually I managed to finish it, which is kind of rare for me when it comes to these like Capcom action games. Like the Street Fighter series are nothing. Those are quite easy, and even the Mega Man series are very, very relatively easy. They're a little bit challenging, but they can, you get used to it after a while, and then when it comes to something like Devil May Cry, it's a good game. I mean, I really did enjoy it. Personally, I prefer the other action-adventure style games like a God of War. You know what I'm saying? Like, I prefer that, God of War 2. I prefer those games, even though Devil May Cry came out earlier, and it's one of the earliest highly critically acclaimed action-adventure titles on the PS2, and it influenced the God of War series and other, action-adventure style games. It's just, I feel like it's a little bit more dated, and it's just a little bit more, it's kind of a confusing game. Like, the character designs and the monster designs, I wasn't, like, feeling that well. I thought that, it's a solid action game. It's something that you can enjoy. Like, you can waste a weekend playing it, or at least a couple of weekends, just, to burn some time and just enjoy a nice little adventure. But I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't say it's in the top 8. It's a solid game, but maybe in the top 30 or top 40 or something like that. Because I think other games have eclipsed it as far as the action adventure experience. It's a good game, but again, I wouldn't say that it's in the top 8 at all. Alright, number 9, Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. I don't think I ever owned or played this game, so I can't really say much about Subsistence. I think I have it, or I had this game. I can't remember now. I actually don't remember if I had this game. I don't remember. I honestly cannot remember for the life of me if I ever owned this game. Maybe I did, I just don't remember. And if I don't remember, then okay, well, it's not that memorable to me. So maybe I never really got into Subsistence, and maybe I never really played it. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember, because I have played several of the Metal Gear Solid series, and the second one, Sons of Liberty, that one stood out a little bit more. and Metal Gear Solid 4. Those are the ones that really stood out. So Subsistence, I don't remember if I ever played it. If I didn't, or if I did, then I don't remember, and it's not that memorable. So I'm just gonna, well, it's number 9. I don't know if I included number 9. Whatever. It's number 9. People seem to enjoy it, but the Metal Gear Solid games to me, I think, peaked in Metal Gear Solid 4. The fourth one on the PS3 was like the high point. So, I don't know, like on the PS2 series, I don't know, maybe the series itself isn't as amazing. Now, moving on, let's move on. Number 10, God of War. The first God of War. It's a shame, too, that the sequel isn't even in the top 10, which is kind of embarrassing. It's like one of the best, easily one of the best games on the PS2. But we got the first one here. I think this one came out in 2005. Very good game. One of the best games on the PS2. This should be a little bit higher, in my opinion. It should probably be in the top 2 or top 3. And an amazing experience. Definitely one of the best, most addictive action-adventure experiences. It's up there. It's one of the best, one of the better experiences you could ever have as far as, a Sony exclusive. An action-adventure where you're playing as this very brutal, powerful alpha male character named Kratos. And he is... he wants his revenge on Ares, and it's just an epic story, great voice acting, awesome music, very memorable soundtrack, and the gameplay is very simple. You get right into it, very easy combos to perform, but then you gotta, your timing has to be on point, and there is a bit of a learning curve as far as the more difficult difficult levels, and it's enjoyable. It's one of my favorite games on the PS2 by far. This is the kind of game that if I lost my copy, I'd buy it again and again and again. And it's so good that it made me buy the rest of the series. This is the first God of War game that I played. So I bought God of War 2. And then I got the PSP games, and then of course on the PS3 it continued with God of War 3 and what's the other one, Ascension. You know what I'm saying? So it just kept going with the God of War series, and this is the first one, and I think it still holds up pretty good. There is some things that might be a little bit dated because it's a game from almost 13 years ago, but as far as the basic core gameplay, it's still very fun. And of course, who can forget that triple X rated mini game where you take on those two babes in that ship right before you leave that you reach that port or that dock or whatever. All right, number 11, Virtua Fighter 4. Oh man, Virtua Fighter 4. Now this is the first version of Virtua Fighter 4. I have the second version. I forget what it was called, Virtua Fighter 4 something, which is kind of a slightly updated version. But this one is a little bit different because it's got different music from what I understand. It has different costumes. It actually has a better costume of the female character. I think what's her name, Vanessa or whatever her name is, Suzanne. I don't know. The chick with the white hair, and she's actually one of my favorite characters in the game because she's kind of hot. So I always like choosing her because I remember playing this game in the arcades. Virtua Fighter 4, and then I got the PS2 version of the second version, Virtua Fighter 4, something with the added characters, the guy with the hoodie on the front. I think it's Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution is the one that I have. Right. But this one is, the basic core gameplay is pretty much like the same, and it's like a really solid realistic or pseudo-realistic entry into the Virtua Fighter series. I quite enjoyed the Virtua Fighter series. I think that it got better, though, with Virtua Fighter 5. I personally like Virtua Fighter 5 on the PS3 more than I like the Virtua Fighter 4 games on the PS2. Because it's better graphics, it's like a slightly better gameplay. I just like it better on the PS3 for some reason. But on the PS2, the PS2 has really long loading times. It's not as I don't know. There's just something lacking about it. There's something missing about it on the PS2. It's like it doesn't have that arcadey experience, and plus the online too. It's missing the online experience. So I think with the PS3 or the Xbox 360 version, you can go online. I know you can go online on the Xbox 360 version on Virtua Fighter 5, but here on the PS2, you can't really do that. And as far as the it's got solid graphics, great music and stuff, pretty cool stage designs, but it's not as good as Virtua Fighter 5. That's the best way I can put it. I think that it just improved with Virtua Fighter 5. So still a solid entry. I don't know if I'd include it in top 11. I don't even think it's the best fighting game on the PS2. That's something like I would include something else like Tekken 5. I think Tekken 5 is a better overall experience as far as fighting games on the PS2. So it's better than Virtua Fighter 4. I wouldn't even include Virtua Fighter 4 in the top 11. It's probably in maybe the top 30, top 40, top 50, something like that, but not in the top 11. Like, give me a break. Alright, number 12. Burnout 3 Takedown. Oh, man, this is one of my favorite street racing games ever. You know what I'm saying? It's so fun. The crash mode is really addictive, and after it takes some while to get used to. It takes a while to learn the controls and really get good at it. But after a while, after you play it over and over again, you get used to it, and you understand how to maneuver the cars and the explosions and everything, and get the timing right. So Burnout 3 is a solid entry. I would even rank it a little bit higher in this list. Maybe I'd include it in the top 6, top 7, something like that. Maybe the top 5 on the PS2 list. So it's an awesome experience. Great soundtrack. One of the best street racing games. It's not even about the street racing. It's mostly about the crash mode. That's the real fun of the actual the game itself. So it's a must-have. I don't know if they'll ever remake it. I'm sure maybe someday down the road, whatever the company, Criterion or whatever, EA, they remake it. But who knows? I really do. I miss the Burnout series. It was great. I think it peaked. It peaked in this particular installment. Burnout 3 Takedown. Number 13 is God of War 2. Awesome game, one of the best games I've ever played. Great graphics, great music. I mean, the same thing can be said. Everything that I said on God of War 1 pretty much can be said with God of War 2. They pretty much improved on the graphics. They made it even better. I mean, I don't even know how they did it, because the PS2 was like, a 7-year-old system by that point, but they were able to push it to the limits. Even though there was a little bit of some graphical glitches here and there, some little errors where it looks like there's some like a wavy pattern going on with the graphics. Sometimes almost look like it's getting washed over by water, because the PS2 has to run this highly demanding game, God of War 2, and still even sexier than the first God of War, even more action, even more more chaos, even more. It's just more attitude, and it takes Kratos to a whole new level. Even though I do feel like in terms of storytelling, it's not as involved with God of War 1. I think God of War 1 had a more cohesive storyline. It made a little bit more sense. But with God of War 2, it was like, okay, now he's feuding with Zeus. Ares is gone, and now he's gonna feud with Zeus, and it starts to kind of doesn't make any sense anymore. Like, that's the beginning of the downfall of the storytelling, because I think with later games, I stopped to care about the storytelling. I still like the gameplay, but the storyline wise, I'm like, ugh, like this is so. It started to get convoluted with God of War 2. But I would still include it in the top. It might be the number 1 PS2 game of all time. It might be my top pick for number 1, just because of how fun it is. I've beaten it multiple times. It's the kind of game that I can play over and over again. And it's a solid experience. It might be number 1 for me, but it's just a matter of opinion. Number 14. Wow, we got to get through this list real quickly. SSX. They have SSX, and the number 15 is SSX3. Now, I don't remember. I think I had the SSX game. I might have had SSX3 on the PS2. I'm pretty sure I had at least one of the SSX games, and they're not super memorable enough for me to even remember. I think I have it on the GameCube, one of the SSX games on the GameCube. I think that's what it was. But regardless, I don't really remember getting too much into the series, and so it seems like people really, really enjoyed it. But for it to come between 14 and 15, it's a little much for me because, I'm not a big snowboarding guy. It looks like a fun sport to do in real life, but as far as video game wise, I mean, it's like, I'm not too crazy about the genre itself. I like racing games, but as far as the SSX, franchise, I mean, there's other ones here. I think the Xbox had, what the heck did the Xbox have? Amped. I almost forgot about Amped. You guys remember the Amped series? I remember on the N64 days, they had 1080p snowboarding and all that stuff. So, as far as snowboarding, I've never been crazy about the genre itself. So I can't include 14 and 15, top 14 and top 15 games. That's kind of ridiculous. I have no idea why they rank so high. I've never been crazy about the SSX series. But, I mean, if people enjoyed it, I'm sure they're quality like snowboarding games, but as far as being ranked that high, I don't know if I do that. Number 16, Okami. Man, I remember when Okami came out in around 2006. Never played it, though. I never got into it. It's one of those games, I think it's also by Capcom. It's one of those games that was never, I could never get into. I never got a copy of it. I never played it, so I can't really say much about it. From what I understand, it got really high scores, and it's like it's become one of the more underrated games. I think it also came out on the Wii back in the day. So Okami is a highly critically acclaimed game, stylistically and art design wise, but as far as like everything else, as far as like gameplay and stuff, I don't know. I've never met too many people that really got into this game. As far as like being one of the best PS2 games of all time. Like most people I would talk to, they've never really gotten into Okami, and I never got into it either. I've never had the desire to play Okami. For some reason, it just looks, not hipsterish, but like kind of like for people that are more into, I don't know, like feminine games, more feminine type video games that have a softer feel to it, as opposed to like the brutal God of War, or like action heavy games like a Tekken or a Virtua Fighter or Metal Gear. Like Okami seems a little bit more it's for girls. It looks like it's for girls or for like a younger audience. Number 17, Soul Calibur 2. Okay, Soul Calibur 2, I think the PS2 had probably the worst version of Soul Calibur 2. I made a review about it, about the 3 different copies of Soul Calibur 2. The Xbox version, the GameCube version. The GameCube version was probably the best one. Even here on this list, they have the Link version, the GameCube version on the cover, as opposed to the PS2 version with Heihachi on it. It's a minor detail, but it's still like, you're talking about Link and Heihachi. Now Heihachi might be more Namco influence. It's like, oh, it's the same company that made it, and so it's familiar for Tekken fans. And Tekken is mostly, at least back then, a Sony type of exclusive type of game, aside from the arcades. But you have the Link version you got the Link on the GameCube version, and that one was a better version overall. And even the Xbox had Spawn, so they had cooler characters. And I don't know. I mean, it's still a solid game. It's still a really good Soul Calibur entry. But this was the point where Soul Calibur had started to kind of fall off a little bit. Where this was like 2002 or 2003. I think around 2003 when this came out, and so the Soul Calibur series had been gone for a few years, and this was kind of like a disappointing game. It's not as good or not as impactful, not as legendary as the first Soul Calibur. I think the series peaked probably with the first Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast, and this was just like, a slightly more updated, like a newer version of Soul Calibur. So it's like Soul Calibur 1.5 or something like that. Something that's not particularly groundbreaking. It still has that fun gameplay, that addictive Namco, that sidestepping, really fun weapon-wielding gameplay. But as far as fighting games is concerned, I wouldn't even include this in top 17. I'd say maybe top 30, top 40, but not. I prefer Tekken 5 over Soul Calibur 2 on the PS2. Number 18, SSX Tricky. Okay, so we got another SSX game. I heard so much about these SSX games over the years, and I talked about the snowboarding thing already. I don't know if I'd include it in the top 18, but then again, I never had too many experiences with it, so it's number 18. Number 19, Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. Ooh-wee, very fun game. This is a classic, a masterpiece. This is one of the best experiences, and for the time, a kind of a groundbreaking game. They were able to translate the Prince of Persia video game series that was like the 2D ones, and then they finally made a really good 3D one with this one, Sands of Time. This is one of the best, I guess you could call it an action-adventure platforming type of experience. Yeah, it's one of the best platforming action-adventure games I've ever played. And the series itself I kind of like. You know, I generally enjoy the series anyway. Maybe I choose Warrior Within a little bit higher, actually. I'm one of those rare few people that enjoyed Warrior Within just a little bit more than Sands of Time. Even though I think Sands of Time was more charming and a little bit more lighthearted. It's closer to like a Disney adventure, a Disney movie, whereas Warrior Within was more gritty, a little bit more like rock and roll, heavy metal kind of thing, a little bit more emo. I still kind of, I would say I still like Warrior Within a little bit better. And then by you know, I think Two Thrones or Two Towers or whatever, I think it was Two Thrones, it wasn't as good, but it was still pretty good. Like, it was still pretty solid, so I really quite enjoy the Prince of Persia series. You know, these 3D platforming games have been really, really fun. I have pretty much, you know, I got the PS3 games, you know, the Forgotten Sands. I got the Prince of Persia that came out like in 2008. You know, so I really quite enjoyed. I got the collection, the Prince of Persia trilogy thing. So it's a solid game for sure, and definitely one of the best. Number 20 is Final Fantasy 12. Is that right? FFXII. Okay, wow. Final Fantasy 12. I have this game, and it's not that fun. I get really bored with this game. The graphics are nice, you know, and the character models and all that stuff. The environment looks cool, but this game, I could never get into it. You know, I played for maybe a couple of hours. I could never get into the storyline. I get so bored of the gameplay. The Final Fantasy series has probably... It's kind of hit or miss for me. Like, the most enjoyable Final Fantasy game I've ever played is the one that came out on the PSP. What the heck was it called? The prequel to FF7. What is it called again? Oh my goodness, the final Crisis Core. Crisis Core. I thought Crisis Core was really good, and it really got me invested in this, you know, the characters. I felt really bad for the main character in the end. You know, I was like, oh man. You know, it felt so heart-wrenching. But I think that's about as far as I'm gonna go. Like, that's the best that it's gonna get. With FF12, I could never get into it. So I'm kind of glad that my experience with the Final Fantasy series is kind of limited. You know, I've never really gotten into the series. I never went crazy with it, and so you know, it's a series that I don't particularly have too much invested interest in. Number 21, Final Fantasy X. I remember when this game came out, it got so much hype. You know, everybody was like, oh my goodness, you know, FFX, and this was like a highly hyped game following like FF7 and FF8 and FF, you know, the previous Final Fantasy titles, especially Final Fantasy VII. With FFX, it was like, this was going to be the Final Fantasy VII of the PS2 back in the early 2000s. I think it came around maybe 2001, early 2002, around that time. I never got into this game. I mean, I remember like going to my friend's house and stuff like that, and seeing them play it, and you know, watching the cutscenes and being amazed at how good looking the cutscenes were. But as far as everything else, like I just never got into it. So it's a game that I can't really tell you much about it, aside from the cutscenes look amazing, and that's about it. Because I never really got a chance to play it, nor do I have any interest in playing it. Because I never got into the Final Fantasy series, you know what I'm saying? It's just not something that I'm in love with. I'm not a fan of the franchise. So after all these years, you know, it's 2017. This game came out probably like 16 years ago. So I never had an interest to buy it and buy the you know, FFX. Okay, number 22, Klonoa 2, Lunatia's Veil. Lunatia's Veil. I've never played this game, so I have no idea. It's number 22 though, so I have absolutely no clue how good the Klonoa series is. So if it's really that good, maybe. I mean, I have no, got no desire to want to play Klonoa. It might be one of the better games, but I'll stick to God of War. Number 23, Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. Oh man, I used to have this game on the PS2. I got rid of it a long time ago, many years ago, and it was good, I guess. It was just never that like super memorable to me. I thought it was just kind of a generic third-person shooter, or a pseudo third-person shooter. Your weapon is kind of a short-range firing missile thing, and I never fell in love with this game. I had Up Your Arsenal, and it was a greatest hits game by that point, by the time that I got it. So I got it pretty late, after it came out. And so I was trying to get into it. I was trying to get into the gameplay, and I just could never get into it. I could never play it to the point that I love it so much, and it's the most fun game in the world. What I do remember is trying to play it on the internet. I tried to play it online on the PS2, and this was like late 2009. You know what I'm saying? So this was like on the very final few like last legs of the PS2 when it was available online. When you could actually go on the internet, you go hook up multiplayer online matches on the internet. Back when the PS2 servers were up, basically. For Ratchet and Clank on the PS2. So that was the very few times you had the server up, the PS2 server was available, and so this was very late into the PS2 lifespan, and so I don't know. I mean, I guess it was okay. It was kind of an okay experience. It wasn't like super fun. It was just like people shooting at each other, and it was just like. It wasn't that fun. Like I would rather play a first person shooter. I'd rather play an FPS. I'd rather play like real shooters instead of this, third person pseudo action platforming kind of game. So Up Your Arsenal, I wouldn't include it in the top 23, maybe the top 50, top 60, but not in the top 23. This game was just not that memorable to me, and I never really got too far with it. Number 24 is Twisted Metal Black. I would say Twisted Metal Black is one of the more overrated games on this list, actually. I remember getting this game, and I saw all the hype, I read all the hype. This was on every list as like one of the best PS2 games of all time, and it's like the epic high point in the Twisted Metal series. And I played on the PS2, and it's like, it's really not that fun. It's really not that exciting. I never really enjoyed it that much. I guess it's okay as far as like a multiplayer, video game where you have these matches and you're trying to one up each other. You're trying to beat everybody on the screen, and it's just this chaotic experience. But aside from like the aesthetic, like the cover looks really cool, and Sweet Tooth looks really cool, and the cutscenes and the characters have this really dark edge to it, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's just an action vehicular game that where you fight each other, and it's a combat vehicle game, and it's really not that fun. It's really not the most amazing game on the planet, in my opinion. Metal Black to me is one of the more overrated games on the PS2. I just could not really get like super crazy about it. And maybe it's because I played it a little bit too late. I got it a few years after it came out, so it wasn't as fresh. But after reading all the hype and stuff like that, it's one of those games that I would say you can pass on Twisted Metal Black. It's one of those PS2 games where I would go like, it's not that fun. Like, it's not as amazing as people make it out to be. There's other games out there, like I would even recommend, as far as like vehicle type games, I would recommend what's the one that came out on the one that was put out by Rockstar. Oh goodness, I forget about it. It's like an ATV. Kind of like an ATV game where you're racing against each other. And I forget what the series was called. Oh my goodness. I had it on the PS2 back in the day. It's like an ATV racer. It's like a precursor to the GTA series as far as like the vehicle physics and stuff like that. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting. I can't believe it. But yeah, I'd rather play that game from Rockstar, that ATV racing game, than freaking Metal Black. You know, that one was like way more fun. All right, number 25, Shadow of the Colossus. This was a really good game. You know, I still have it on the PS3 collection. You know, I got that one in Eco. And I had at least a couple of copies of this game on the PS2. Like, I had 2 versions of this on the PlayStation 2. I beat it the first time. I thought it was pretty fun. Like, once you really get into the storyline and into the gameplay, it was good. I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not... It's kind of... I guess it's a little bit overrated in that it gets ranked so high in these lists. But the music was good. It's a unique experience. The final bosses... every single one of the bosses were really fun to defeat and go up against. So it's a very epic game for sure, and it made you feel like a complete boss when you fight off against the monsters. It made you feel like a complete conqueror in some ways. But you're always like this underdog character. So I kind of like that. I love the horse that you I think it's Agro, and then you call onto the horse and he helps you out, and it's really, really fun. I liked it. You know, Shadow of the Colossus is definitely one of the best. I'd probably put it maybe in the top 10. So I'd rank this up a little bit higher than just the top 25. Simply because it's such a unique game, and to this day, like, I've never really played a game that was kind of like it. You know, it's if they made a sequel to it, it would be pretty cool. I think they have like Last Guardian or something like that, but that's not gonna duplicate this game. You know, Shadow of the Colossus is a classic for sure. All right, number 26 is DOA 2 Hardcore. Dead or Alive. Okay, well, I think I have Dead or Alive 2 on the Xbox. I got the ultimate DOA or whatever the heck it is, DOA 2 Ultimate or something like that. So I mean, I like it. It's a fun, solid game. I don't know if it's in the top 26. Tekken 5. Tekken 5 is the best fighting game on the PS2 by far. Hands down, no question. So I wouldn't even include DOA 2. You know, I'm sure, like, DOA 2 is fun. You know, I got it on the Xbox. It's a good, solid, like, fighting game experience. It got great graphics and stuff. This one is DOA 2 Hardcore. I mean... It's fun, you know, it's very simplistic. I'm not a big fan of the overly, like, super simplistic gameplay of Dead or Alive. I think that it's too casual, it's for children, it's for kids, you know. I prefer Tekken where you have to master every character's gameplay. I love that, you know what I'm saying, because they feel different. The combat feels more sophisticated. It feels a lot more time-consuming to learn, but like it's more, not even time-consuming, it's more high maintenance. Tekken is more high maintenance than, you know, cheap DOA. You know, I think DOA is just good for the sexy babes, you know. Oh, the girls look hot in bikinis. Okay, that's great. It's got the sex appeal, but Tekken has the gameplay. Alright, number 27 is Eco. I enjoyed Eco. I thought Eco was good. I got it on the PS3. Solid game. I don't know if I include it in top 27. It's got a quirky storyline, quirky characters and stuff. I don't know if it's top 27 though. Just because something is a little bit different or unique. You know, it's almost like you're a hipster when you include a game like Eco. Like, you're just a hipster. You're including something that's weird and you know, eccentric. It's a good game. I wouldn't include it in the top 27, maybe top 50, top 60, something like that. Okay, number 28 is Tony Hawk's Underground. We're going to have to go a little bit faster here. Underground, I thought it was a solid game. I used to have it. I think I still have Underground 2. I used to have Underground 1, though, on the PS2. I got rid of it because, I don't know, I could never, like, get too crazy about it. You know, the gameplay is fun and stuff, but it's just a fun, like, skating game, but there's better skating games out there. You know, so, you know, as far as Underground being number 28, that's a little way too far high up. Maybe top 70, top 80, something like that, but way too high at number 28. You know, I mean, I come on, man. Like, Underground is really not that great of a game. It's all right. You know, it's not a bad game. It's fun if you wanna you know, spend some time wasting playing a little bit of some skating. skating action for that Tony Hawk flavor, but at the same time it gets boring after a while, it gets old after a while. It's your typical like Tony Hawk experience. Just get Skate 3 or something like that. Number 29, Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. I've never played this one, but if it's a Ratchet and Clank game, it's if it's anything like Up Your Arsenal, well, I've never been crazy about the Ratchet and Clank experience as far as the gameplay and the third person shooter and da. I'd rather play like give me Mega Man, give me Gears of War, anything like that. I'd rather play those than freaking Ratchet and Clank. Number 30 is Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. I used to have it on the PS2. I sold it a long time ago. I thought it was okay, not a bad platforming experience. Some pretty cool looking characters, but that's all it is. It's just a couple of cool looking characters that isn't, it's just like, it's for kids. It's for little children. It's for a younger demographic. It's a cartoonish game for a younger crowd. So it's a solid game. I don't know if I could include it in the top 30. I remember it being kind of fun. The platforming was pretty cool. I like the part where I think you're sliding down like a hill or something like that. That was kind of cool. Number 31 is Burnout Revenge. I think I have Burnout Revenge on the Xbox 360. So I got the 360 version. I mean, I don't know if it's that like super crazy different from the PS2 version, but if it's pretty much the same, Burnout Revenge is a really fun game. Between this and Burnout 3 Takedown, I love Burnout Revenge 2, and it's such a fun, very fun street racing game. I love taking down the stupid enemies. It's just so addictive. Even though the graphics are dated, the graphics stink because they're all like really, it's got that sepia brown color from like the mid-2000s. Like every game had to have that back in the mid-2000s. Around like 2005, 2006, it has to have this brown sepia, everything looks like diarrhea. It's like, But very, very fun gameplay-wise. If they made if they remade this, kept the same gameplay, kept it fun, but like updated graphics, more colorful, more realistic, and just better looking, it would be a heck of a game. So number 31, it's not a bad spot. It's a solid spot. I would probably rank it a little bit higher, maybe top 20. Maybe even like number 15 or something like that. Alright, number 32, we got Shin Megami Tensei Persona 4. I never played this game. I have the fighting game on the PS3, but I could never get it. I never owned any of the actual RPG series. So, I mean, it looks quirky, it looks fun, so, I mean, I don't know. Number 30, Time Splitters 2. Oh, snap! I used to have this game. There's a lot of games I used to have. Like, I sold some of my a big chunk of my collection years ago of my PS2 games, so you can imagine I kept the ones that I really loved. So I kept the PS2 games that I really enjoyed. I kept them. So for example, with Time Splitters 2, I had Splitters 2 and I have Future Perfect. I kept Future Perfect and I sold Time Splitters 2 because they were pretty much a very similar game anyway, but I preferred Future Perfect. So with Time Splitters 2, it's still a really amazing, like really fun first-person shooter. If I'm not mistaken, it's the first FPS in this list, which is saying something. It's the first FPS in a top PS2 games list, and it's only number 33. I'd probably rank it a little bit higher. It'd probably be top 20, something like that. Very fun game. Good music, good-looking characters, like very charismatic, very unique, fun gameplay, which is the most important aspect of it. It carried the traditional, the legacy of the GoldenEye series. Because from what I understand, I don't know if it's like the same people that worked on it, the same people that worked on GoldenEye, and maybe Perfect Dark. I can't remember. I love Perfect Dark. Not so much GoldenEye because I thought GoldenEye was kind of overrated, but I really loved Perfect Dark on the N64. So with Time Splitters 2, you kind of get a sort of a similar experience, like with the cool weapons and stuff like that. So Splitters 2 was a solid game, a solid entry. Number 34 is Beautiful Joe. I think I have this one on the GameCube. It's not a bad game. Like, I think the best part about this game is the style, the artistic design, the animation and stuff. Just the cel-shaded graphics. It looks really cool. As far as the gameplay wise, it's a traditional beat 'em up. I wouldn't say it's one of the best games as far as experience. There's many other awesome beat 'em ups in history, especially in the early 90s. And this is sort of a throwback by Capcom to those classic beat-em-ups from back in the day, I guess. And, you know, I got the GameCube version. I thought it was kind of fun, but I wouldn't say that it's, you know, one of the best, you know, top 34. There's probably better games out there than, you know, freaking Beautiful Joe. So Beautiful Joe, it's a fun, nice game to look at. But, you know, I would rather prefer many other games. Like, you know, I can think of many other titles that I would put in number 34. So I would rank Beautiful Joe probably like top 70, top 80 or something. Much lower on the list. Number 35 is Rayman 2 Revolution. I never played Rayman 2. I think I must have played the first Rayman. Or, yeah, I think the first, one of the early Raymans on the first PS1, which I have downloaded on the PS3. I think I had one of those games, but Rayman 2 Revolution, I don't think I've ever played it on the PS2, so, I mean, it's Rayman. I mean, it's a classic, legendary mascot, you know, as far as, like, platforming, so, I mean, who knows? It probably could be a really solid, experience. Number 36 is Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King. I remember when this dropped way back in the day. I think it must have been either like late 2005 or early 2006, around that time. And there was a lot of hype behind it because it's Dragon Quest kind of coming back, and, you know, now it's on the PS2. It's on a very established system. But I never really got into it. You know, I understand, like, the art design was from the Dragon Ball. I think it might have been drawn by, I don't know if it's by Akira Toriyama or something like that. The people that made the Dragon Ball animations. But, Journey of the Cursed King, I just never really got into it. You know, I'm not a huge fan of JRPGs. I don't really go out of my way to get them. I remember beating and playing, I think it was Dragon Quest V on the, I guess it was the Super Nintendo? It was either the SNES or like an early, it might have been yeah, I think it was the Super Nintendo. Either Super Nintendo or a Super Famicom version, whatever the heck version I played. Dragon Quest V I thought was pretty good, you know, like the storyline was good, I got invested into it, but Dragon Quest VIII, I mean, I have no clue, so it is a Dragon Quest game, so I would just, you know, I would assume that the storyline is like really epic. But it's number 36. Alright, number 37 is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. I think I have this on the GameCube. So I quite enjoy this game on the GameCube. If this is the same game that I'm thinking about, yeah, the Hot Pursuit 2, yeah. Where the cops chase you and everything, and it's got some pretty cool looking stage designs and level designs and courses and stuff. So you know, the tracks look pretty cool. Hot Pursuit 2, good racing game. Probably one of the best Need for Speed games in the series. So I mean, it's not a bad entry. So number 37, you know, I can dig it, and I'm feeling it. Number 38 is Ace Combat Shattered Skies, or Ace Combat 4 Shattered Skies. I don't think I've ever played any of the Ace Combat series, so we're just going to move along. Number 39, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell. Wow, this is the first one. I remember this kind of being like a PS2 game, and then it moved to the Xbox for some reason. Like, it became an Xbox exclusive or something like that, or it became like an Xbox staple, I should say. I don't know if it became an exclusive, but a staple of the Microsoft Xbox experience. I have one of the Splinter Cell titles. I think it was what the heck was it called? Oh my goodness, I forget. I thought it was a really overrated game, the Tom Clancy Splinter Cell game that I'm talking about, and it's okay, you know. It's an okay experience. Like the stealth is okay, you know. I think there's other games that do the stealth thing a little bit better. So as far as Splinter Cell itself, I mean, it's all right, you know. I've never been crazy about it. It's not something that I would go out of my way to play over and over again. Like, I have what the heck's the one on the original Xbox? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I've forgotten about the one that I have, which is like, that's the most highest reviewed game in the the Splinter Cell series, at least up to that point. The one that came out on the Xbox. What the heck was it called? Chaos Theory. That's the one. Chaos Theory, I think. That's the one. Yeah, I have Chaos Theory, and that one got really high scores, and out of all the the Splinter Cell games, that's the one that got the high Metacritic scores, and after playing it, it's like, it's really not that, it's okay. Number 40 is Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3 FES. I've never played it, so I can't tell you. Number 41 is Gran Turismo 4. You know, the Gran Turismo series to me is overrated, so I'm not a fan of it. I don't agree with putting Gran Turismo 4 here. So I don't care how realistic it is. If it's boring, you know, I don't care if they have 1,000 cars. It's boring. I'm sorry. Number 42, Silent Hill 2. I have never played the Silent Hill series, so yeah, I never got into it. Number 43, Medal of Honor Frontline. I think I had this game back in the day. This was I think it was World War II, right? I think I played through this game a little bit. It was okay, you know. I think there's much better first-person shooters out there than Frontline, especially on the PS2. My goodness, you know, there's more fun. There's Black. There's Future Perfect. There's a bunch of other ones that's more enjoyable. You know, I think there's one called Urban Chaos, or you know, there's a bunch of other ones that I quite enjoyed a little bit more than frickin' Frontline. You know, Frontline is okay, but you know, it's not that amazing. It's not the best first person shooter at all. There's no way. You know, I enjoy the Time Splitter series better. You know, I mentioned Black already. There's I think Project Snowblind. I like Project Snowblind a little bit better. Cold Winter I thought was better. Cold Winter had a pretty cool story. So there's better shooters than Medal of Honor Frontline. I think I made a top 10 best PS2 shooters, and Medal of Honor Frontline, or none of the Medal of Honor games even made it in the top 10. So there you go. Alright, number 44 is Tekken 5. I mean, I already mentioned, this is one of the best fighting games I have ever played, and my personal favorite on the PS2. Now, you could say, well, it was a little bit better with Dark Resurrection. They improved the gameplay is a little bit faster. And that's true. And it's a testament to how fun the Tekken 5 engine is, and how, you know, how classic it is now. It's become like one of the best in the Tekken franchise. I love the music, great soundtrack. You know, I love that Moonlit Wilderness, that den den ah. It's like so epic. You know what I'm saying? The CGI cutscenes are really cool. You know, the cinematics are fun. Like the storyline is kind of goofy. It's really not that. It's not too. You don't get too invested in it because it's like whatever. It's kind of a convoluted storyline, but I think Tekken 4 actually had a better storyline than Tekken 5, but Tekken 5 is just like whatever. Like, I'm just here for the gameplay, and it's a really fun, awesome fighting game for the PS2, especially with the graphics. I mean, this game I think came out in early 2005 on the PS2, maybe 2004 in the arcades, but like graphics wise they improved so much. It's a really very advanced game, and I highly recommend it. It's the best fighting game. I would rank it a lot higher. This game is probably top 3, top 4, top 5 on the PS2. It's my favorite fighting game on the PlayStation 2. Alright, number 45 is Red Faction. Red Faction. This is another shooter on the PS2, and from everything that I remember, this was a solid experience. The first one, especially, like, you know, it came out on the PC too, from what I remember. This is from the same people, like Volition Inc. I think is the people that made the Saints Row games. You know what I'm saying? So Red Faction is it's kind of lost its way in later years, but the first Red Faction is kind of a legendary game now. I remember, like, before it came out, and my friend who was like a big gamer, one of my buddies in school, it wasn't really my friend, but he was like an associate or an acquaintance, and he talked to me about, like, there's a new game coming out called Red Faction. You know, it's a new game for the PS2 and stuff, and you know, if you shoot an enemy in the limbs, like if you shoot an enemy in the leg, then the enemy will hobble, or he'll drop on the floor and he'll like start crawling. So that kind of realism, that kind of attention to detail, where they specifically target body parts, and it shows the effects of it in a first-person shooter, was kind of unheard of at that time. Before that was games like Doom and GoldenEye and Duke Nukem 3D and games like Quake. You know, Quake and those kind of games that's like death matches and stuff like that. But with Red Faction, bringing in just a little bit of that realism was kind of a big deal. I've never really gotten into Red Faction. I can't say that, I've ever sat down and really played through this game, but from everything that I remember, this was a highly critically acclaimed game, and it's probably one of those first-person shooters that I missed out on in the early 2000s. I wish I got a chance to play that game. I wish I got a chance to get into Red Faction. It's one of those titles that is probably like I feel like I missed out on it. I feel like I completely missed out on Red Faction. So I never got into it, but I never played it, never owned it, but it's I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that, because it just seems like such a cool game, Red Faction. All right, so number 46 is Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank. This is the first one in the Ratchet and Clank, I think. This one I had never played, but if it's anything like Up Your Arsenal, again, I'm not a fan of the Ratchet and Clank series. I'm sorry, man. It's just I can't. Number 47 is Sly 2 Band of Thieves. Okay. In the Sly series, I would say that Band of Thieves, the Sly 2, is the best in the Sly series, at least in the first 3 that came out on the PS2. So between Sly 1, Sly 2, and Sly 3, this one is my favorite. I like the gameplay, I like the characters. You got Carmelita Fox, who is probably one of the best parts of that game, and it's very charming. The gameplay has a solid, it feels good to play it. It's got a good pacing to it, So it doesn't feel like it's too rushed. It doesn't feel like it's dragging. It doesn't feel like it's too slow. So it's a solid platforming game. I would recommend it. Out of all the Sly series, this is the one to get. I would recommend Sly 2 over Sly 3 and Sly 1. This is the one to have if you can only buy one of the 3. And this is the best one in the series. Yeah, number 47. It's pretty good installment. I don't know, maybe rank it up a little bit higher. Maybe number 30, number 35, something like that. All right, number 48 is SOCOM 2 U.S. Navy SEALs. I think I remember I have this game. This is probably the first SOCOM I ever owned. I never really enjoyed it. I think the gameplay is really boring. I don't like the controls. It's not that good of a first-person shooter. And I never really enjoyed the SOCOM series that much. There are more fun first-person shooters than the SOCOM series. I think SOCOM is kind of overrated. Just kind of, it's not that fun. It's really not that fun. All right, number 49 is Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. Yeah, I don't think I've ever played any of the Baldur's Gate series. I've heard some good things, but Dark Alliance, I never got into it. So, number 50, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. I talked about this Chaos Theory. This was really well received on the Xbox. I got the Xbox version. I would say this is kind of overrated. I never finished it, and I can't say that I love this game. It's okay. It's okay. The graphics are a little too dark. I hate the nighttime stuff. It makes my eyes hurt, and so yeah, I can't get into it. Number 51 is Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition. Ooh, the Special Edition, right? I heard about this game. I had an opportunity to get this on the Devil May Cry collection a few years ago, but I never bought into it. I beat the first one, and it's like, after that, it's like, it was good while it lasted. The first one was good, but I felt like I didn't want to play any more Devil May Cry after that. I've had my fill. I wasn't, hungry for more Devil May Cry. Whereas with the God of War series, I beat God of War 1. Oh, I gotta play God of War 2. I gotta play the PSP games. The God of War series to me is more addictive than Devil May Cry. There's more replay value to me with the God of War series. Devil May Cry is a little too... It's very Capcom-ish. It's very, the characters look like emo, little stylistic, they look like fashion, early 2000s, high-tech fashion wannabe, Neo type, from the Matrix, or kind of like Blade from the Blade movies. He's got the long jacket thing going on, and I don't know, the duster jacket thing, and they try to make the character Dante look so cool, and it's just like he's got a gun, he's a gunslinger type of thing, and I'm just like whatever, I'm not that impressed. All right, number 52 is Jak 2. Did I ever have? I don't think I ever had Jak 2. I got Jak 3 and I got the first Jak, Precursor Legacy, but Jak 2 I don't think I ever played, so gotta keep moving. Number 53 is Bully. I had at least a couple of copies of Bully. I had this game twice. I owned it on the PS2, and I do kind of miss it. I still think about this game every now and then, and like, I kind of miss the experience. Like, I miss the high school setting. I miss the gameplay. But it's funny because when I played it, I remember playing it the first time, and this was at a time when I didn't have the GTA games. I think I lost my copy of Vice City. I used to have Vice City, and then I played Bully. I think I lost my copy of Vice City, and then when I was playing Bully, and when I'm riding like when I'm on the skateboard in the middle of the road and stuff like that, it made me wish that I had GTA instead. Like when I played Bully, it made me want to play Grand Theft Auto instead. Like this was a junior version. This was like a kid's version of GTA, where there's no like, you know, finishing the opponent. There's no like, you know, taking care or handling business, so to speak. You're not putting anybody in a dirt nap, so to speak, and putting anybody 6 feet under, if you know what I'm talking about, in this game. But you are fighting, you're fighting students. You're fighting other classmates. You're fighting bullies, and I like the charming high school experience of Bully. It made me go back. It made me like reminisce a little bit of my high school experience, even though my high school was nowhere near as chaotic or as crazy as the freaking high school in Bully. You know, Bully is such an exaggerated, cartoonish version of a high school, but it was kind of fun. Like, it made you feel like, oh yeah, high school, you got to go to class. Yeah, there's a timer, and there's you got to go to class on time. You gotta go here. There's PE, and it made you feel kind of slightly reminisce back to high school. So I do miss it. And if they made a sequel, I'm sure it's going to be a really good game. If they ever make Bully 2 somewhere down the road. All right, number 54 is Dark Cloud 2. I don't think I ever played the Dark Cloud series. So number 55 is Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow. I don't think I ever played this game. Number 56 is Kingdom Hearts 2. Oh God. Kingdom Hearts 2. This is one of the most overrated games on the PS2. I can't stand Kingdom Hearts 2. My sister got this game. I didn't buy it. But she bought it for the PS2. And so I ended up playing it too. Because this was at a time when we didn't have much PS2 games. This was probably around like 2006. So, I'm playing Kingdom Hearts 2 and it's just a really boring experience. It's a boring pseudo-action RPG. I mean, it's really not that fun. It's not that special. I didn't care about Disney characters because, I was like 18 or 19 years old at the time, so I'm pretty much an adult. So I didn't care about the freaking Disney characters. I didn't care about Mickey Mouse or, Goofy or any of these guys. I'm just like, I don't care. I'm not invested in it. I'm not a child. I'm not, a little baby. I was never big into Disney anyway. I never got into the Disney thing. Like, I think, I like Lion King. I saw Lion King when I was a kid in the mid-90s in theaters. That was a fun movie, but I mean, as far as everything else, like Pocahontas and Tarzan and all this garbage, I'm just like, this stuff is for girls. This is for little kids and for girls. Like, I'm not into this. I'm more into manly games and masculine games, and it's all about like Tekken and God of War, and that's what I love, man. I'm not into little, Kingdom Hearts, and it's for little kids. Enough Kingdom Hearts. I'm sick of it. So I wouldn't, number 56. There's better games out there than. I wouldn't even include this in the top 100. Give me a break. Okay, so number 57 is Half-Life. Oh snap! Okay, Half-Life on the PS2. This was the first one though, the first installment. Very cool to see it on the PS2 because this was a PC classic in the late 90s. A classic first-person shooter, sci-fi shooter. I'm sure it's a solid game. I never really got into it. I did enjoy Half-Life 2 on the Xbox, so if it's anything like Half-Life 2, then, I'm sure Half-Life 1 was a pretty cool game too. I remember Half-Life 2 being, like, super popular on the PC back in the late 90s. That's what I remember. Not so much like, the PS2 was like, okay, it's the PS2 version. It's not as good as the PC version. That's what I remember from back in the day. Alright, number 58 is Guilty Gear X2. I don't think I've ever played the Guilty Gear games, so from what I remember, it has really good soundtrack, because I remember downloading like video game soundtracks back in the day, and I remember Guilty Gear having really good music, especially X2. So, yeah, the music is really good, the soundtrack's really good. So number 59, we got Onimusha Warlords. Oh, God, I think I had this game back in the day. I don't have it anymore, but I think I finished it and I beat it, and this is one of those early Capcom PS2 games that's like an action type of game, but it's got that set like Resident Evil kind of a camera system that's like fixed angle. Not a bad game, it's pretty cool, but it is very dated, especially at this point. It's a very outdated style game. It's very slow, kind of plotting game. And even the ending, I wasn't a big fan of the ending. The ending was kind of a cliffhanger, or just kind of a lackluster ending. So after doing all the stuff that you did, after beating the enemies and, getting through the end of the game, the ending wasn't that special. So I felt kind of disappointed with Warlords. It's not a bad game, it's okay, but, it's more about the gameplay. The gameplay's kind of fun. Number 60 is Suikoden 3. I don't think I've ever played any of the Suikoden, so... Number 61 is Beyond Good and Evil. I used to have this on the PS2. I sold my copy many years ago. I've sold a bunch of my PS2 games, Beyond Good and Evil I thought was kind of a fun game. The main character is this charismatic chick, and she's like one of the cooler like female protagonists. Like she's a respected female protagonist. She kind of became an icon for female characters in video games. Like she's not using her body to sell. She's not like over sexualized or anything like that. She's just kind of a regular chick, and this relatable photographer chick, and the environment itself is kind of cool. The environment is kind of quirky, kind of different, and the characters are different. The environment is kind of unique, and I don't know. I remember getting stuck to it. I got stuck in a part where I had to do some racing thing. I was on a boat or something like that, and I ended up in an island, and it was it was a long time ago, but it was fun. It was fun while it lasted. I just never really got too far into it. I never beat it. The storyline was okay. I like the sneaking around stuff. You're sneaking behind the enemies and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. It feels like you're infiltrating this. You're battling an empire. You're battling this evil conglomerate, and it's kind of an epic storyline. And maybe someday they'll have Beyond Good and Evil 2, a sequel to the game. But even if they do put out a sequel, I'm not really that interested in the series. Like, I thought it was a good, solid first-person player, single-player, single-player video game. It's for people that want something a little bit different, a little bit quirky, a little bit unique, and it's a fun game. It's fun. Number 62 is Soul Calibur 3. Oh my goodness. I had this on the PS2. I remember buying it. I remember getting excited for it because it's like, okay, this is, hopefully it's better than Soul Calibur 2. Like, it's even better. And I heard so much about, like, you get to create your own characters. You have character customization. So I play Soul Calibur 3, I should say. I played Soul Calibur 3, and it turned out that it had a game-ruining bug. It basically had this thing that completely shattered the video game. It was a bug, it was a flaw, a glitch in the video game. I think it was in the Chronicles of the Sword mode, where it would freeze the game, or it would corrupt the game. It would corrupt your file. So all the work that you did would get corrupted. And the only way around it was you had to save Soul Calibur 3 as the first game in your memory card. In your PS2 memory card, it would have to be the very first game to be saved, so you had to delete all your other files before that, which is a horrible, horrible flaw. I had no idea that, talk about quality control completely being thrown out the window. I don't know what Namco was thinking putting this out, and of course, it had no online. It had no online, so there was no downloadable fixes, there was no patches for it. I'm sure now, in this modern age, if this had come out, there would have been patches for it for sure. Like, you just download a patch like within like 30 seconds. But back then on the PS2 had very limited multiplayer online, and so you couldn't really. There was no structure for that. There was no infrastructure for an online fighting game like Soul Calibur. So you couldn't fix it, and even if you could, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you know, the PS2 couldn't really download anything as far as I can remember. So I don't know. It was just a terrible. Yeah, Soul Calibur 3 was kind of a low point in the Soul Calibur series. The game itself was kind of fun. Like, the game itself was okay. You know, it's got some cool new characters in there. Got like Tira, Zasalamel, you know, the final boss, Abyss, I think. Some pretty cool looking characters, but as far as just that glitch was so infuriating for me. So, number 63, we Love Katamari. The only thing I remember about this game was that it's about collecting trash on the ground. You're rolling this piece of garbage like you're like a dung beetle, and the music was really fun, like na 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 Katamari Damashi. I remember that. That was really catchy, but I never really got into this game. I think I played the demo a long time ago. Number 64 is the first Sly Cooper. Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. I don't think I ever owned that game. So that's the first installment, though. I'm sure, you know, it's your you know, classic Sly gameplay. Number 65 is Amplitude. Amplitude looks like some kind of music game, so maybe an early precursor to something like Guitar Hero. So, I mean, I don't know. It looks like it's a fun game, but it's, you know, Amplitude. I don't think it ever blew up as a huge franchise. So, you know what I'm saying? Number 66 is Burnout 2, Point of Impact. I don't think I ever had Burnout 2, but it is a Burnout game, so, you know, Burnout is an awesome experience. Number 67 is Katamari Damashi. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so hold on. We Love Katamari, and then we got Katamari Damashi. I think that's the one that had that music. Na 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 na. That's the one. Okay, so I think I made a mistake. We Love Katamari is a different game. Katamari Damacy is the one with the rolling the garbage on the ground. So I think I just messed up right there. So okay, so I confused the Katamari games. Yeah, I never. Yeah, this is the one that I played the demo for. That was a long time ago when I played the demo. So you know, I forget the titles. I thought it was the same game. All right, number 68 is Psychonauts. It took a while for me to get into Psychonauts. I think I have it on the PS3. I think I downloaded it on the PlayStation 3. But this one came out on the PS2. I think also on the Xbox. From what I remember, it's like from Tim Schafer, that guy who was like, you know, he has like a bunch of ideas, and you know, he's supposedly like a really genius mind when it comes to video games. But Psychonauts is, it's okay. It's not a bad game, I guess. It's kind of quirky. It's a little bit different. It has a cool looking character designs, but it's not amazing. You know, I never like finished it. I never got into it because I felt like it was kind of a it got boring after a while. You know, the gameplay got boring. It's like, I don't really care anymore. You know, I got to a certain point in the game where I'm climbing stuff, and then I just got bored. I got bored with it. I didn't care about the storyline. I didn't care about the characters after a while, and it's just like, I would rather play something else that's fun. I would rather play something else with a better storyline. Alright, number 69 is Aggressive Inline. Holy smokes, I had no idea that this was going to take this long. Aggressive Inline is number 69. This looks like a skate game, a rollerblading game or something. I don't think I've ever played this one. So, it's a rollerblading game, so it might be really fun, like a Tony Hawk. Number 70 is Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix. I believe I have this game. Really, really fun on the PS2. This might be the best street racing game on the PlayStation 2. Because it's got fun gameplay, it's got fun, good controls, very easy to pick up and play, very arcadey. You know, the music was cool. The graphics are pretty good, even though it's always at nighttime. You know what I'm saying? And then that's kind of annoying because it's always, you know, I sometimes wish it would switch up between day and night. It's kind of the opposite of Burnout. Burnout 3 Takedown is always like almost always during the daytime, whereas Midnight Club 3 is almost always at nighttime, if not completely at nighttime. And but I remember the game being really, really fun and addictive. It's probably one of the best. It's got to be one of the best racing games. So I would rank it much higher than number 70. I'd probably put it in the top 20, you know, top 20, top 25, something like that. Alright, number 71 is Prince of Persia 2 Thrones. A solid game, you know, not as good as the first two. Not as good as Warrior Within or Sands of Time, but it's still kind of a fun experience. Your character has this gimmick where he transforms into another, you know, more darker action melee type of character. maybe as a response to maybe the God of War series or Devil May Cry, something like that. Kind of give it that melee flavor and that hack and slash flavor, because they wanted to switch it up a little bit. The prince character himself, when he's just a regular prince, is just kind of a little bit kind of weak. He's not as strong, he's not as intimidating. So they kind of want to give him an edgy alter ego, I guess. The story is okay. Kind of got into the storyline. The second one was sexier. Like, Warrior Within had sexier looking women. The first one was a little bit more funny, and this one is just like a continuation. It's just kind of a conclusive, what do you call it? It kind of tied up the loose ends and gave you some closure in the end. But there were some really cool moments in this game when you're climbing up the tower, and that was kind of fun. Number 72 is Hitman 2 Silent Assassin. I don't think I ever have this game. I think I had one of the other Hitman games, Hitman Contracts or something like that. So I've never played Hitman 2. 73 is Midnight Club 2, another Midnight, one of the earlier Midnight Club games in the series. It looks like it's a fun game, but I never got into one. From what I understand, this was one of the earliest street racing games on the PS2, way back in the early 2000s. Speaking of early games, number 74 is Tekken Tag Tournament. This is a really fun game. Between this and Tekken 5, I mean, I love Tekken 5, but Tekken Tag Tournament has a really fun, like, tag action thing, and where it's like you go back and forth between two characters, and it's a really smooth, probably even more smooth than Tekken 5. This is arguably more fluid. It's a more fluid experience than Tekken 5. Tekken 5 is a little bit more strategy. You gotta you gotta deal with closed-in walls and closed-in stages, some of them. But with Tekken Tag Tournament, it's every stage is pretty much open-ended. So, you know what I'm saying? It's probably more fun for a multiplayer experience. So from what I understand, Tekken Tag Tournament was well received from like the young people that played it, like people in college frats and college parties and stuff like that. They would play this game in college, like the young adults back in the day that had a PS2 when PS2 was first released in the early 2000s. Like, people loved this game back in the day. This was like a great party game. So Tekken Tag Tournament, I mean, I have it. It's a classic for sure, but I still prefer Tekken 5 a little bit more because it's got better music, better stage designs, and etc. Number 75 is Onimusha 3 Demon Siege. I don't think I ever played Onimusha 3, so moving on. Number 76 is Rumble Racing. I don't even remember Rumble Racing, so I have no idea. It kind of sounds like that new game that came out. What the heck was it called? Rumble something else. The new one, the new one that WWE has been plugging. That online multiplayer racing game. Number 77 is Kingdom Hearts. I haven't played the first Kingdom Hearts, but I'm not a fan of the Kingdom Hearts series. I think it stinks. It's garbage. It's overrated trash from Disney and Square. It's just a gimmick. It is an absolute gimmick. Kingdom Hearts has no place in the top 100 list. I would not include it in the top 100. I don't care about Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts can go F off. Get out of here. Number 78 is Shadow Hearts Covenant. I don't think I've ever played Shadow Hearts. Number 79 is Beautiful Joe, the sequel. Beautiful Joe 2, I should say. I think I have this also on the GameCube. Yes, I think I have it on the GameCube. Never really got too much into it because I haven't really played. I haven't beaten, I should say. I've never beaten the first Beautiful Joe on the GameCube, and I have, Beautiful Joe 2 is the sequel. And in the back of my mind, like, I got to beat the first one first, and then I gotta, and then I can play the second one. So me not ever finishing the first one, I still have it on the GameCube. I got Beautiful Joe 2. I never really got into it. I never really played it. So I have the game, like, I actually own it, but I never got to actually, like, experience it and really play it and sit down and really, enjoy Beautiful Joe 2. And I've had it for many, many years now. It's crazy. So, number 80 is Champions of Norath. I don't think I ever played Champions of Norath. It's not the kind of game that I would play. It does look kind of cool, but it seems like it's for the World of Warcraft crowd, you know what I mean? Number 81 is The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. I I think I have Two Towers on the Xbox, and I thought that was okay. But this is Return of the King, and I've never really like delved too much into the Lord of the Rings video games. I mean, I love the movies. I think the movies are great. But as far as the games themselves, I do remember them coming out. I remember like Return of the King coming out on the PS2 back in the early mid-2000s. And there was a lot of hype for it. It was like, oh, you know, it's kind of cool. Like, it's a movie tie-in to one of the best fantasy movie franchises of all time. So it got some pretty huge buzz back in the day. Number 82 is Need for Speed Underground. I used to have this game. My sister enjoyed this game way more than I did because she actually played it and she enjoyed it. She actually liked it. And she could actually, you know, beat the tracks. I could never get into this game. I mean, I had it, but I never really enjoyed the tracks, the tracks, the stages. I could never get into them. I could never get into the fact that there's no damage physics, or there might be some damage physics, but it's not crazy. You know, there's no explosions. There's not enough action in this game. It feels like your straightforward, like generic street racing game. There's no chase scenes. You're not being chased by anybody. There's no sense of danger to the game. It's just kind of this generic street racer, and then it's just, I would rather play Mario Kart. I'd rather play a kart racing game like Mod Nation or Sonic All Stars Racing. All right, number 83 is Silent Hill 3. I'm trying to do the theme. I've never played the Silent Hill game, so moving on. Number 84 is this Gaia Hour of Darkness. Have no idea. I don't think I've ever played this. Number 85 is Mercenaries Playground of Destruction. I had the second one on the PS3. I thought it was really disappointing. But from what I understand, the first one, this one, Mercenaries, the first Playground of Destruction, was pretty well received. I don't know if it's like number 85. Maybe it was kind of a fun game, but I mean, I thought the second one kind of sucked. But the first one is, if the first one is better, then, hey, it's better. Number 86 is Star Wars Starfighter. I don't even remember this game. Number 87 is Time Splitters Future Perfect. Number 87. I would rank this way, way higher on the list. This is top 20, probably top 10. It's probably one of the best first-person shooters on the PS2. I don't know if it's the number one best, but it's up there. It's top 10, top 20. Number 88 is Maximo Ghosts to Glory. I heard a lot about this game, but I never really got into it. I don't think I've ever played it. Number 89 is Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. I'm not a fan of these stupid Lego games, man. I gotta be honest with you. I think I have like Lego Batman. I'm sure I play I think I have one of the Lego Star Wars games on the Game Boy Advance. But I mean, I don't care about Lego. I don't care about the Lego like spin-offs and Star Wars and Batman. I don't care. I have no desire to play a Lego game for kids. I'm sorry. Number 90 is Red Faction 2. Okay, I didn't know they had a sequel to Red Faction. That came on the PS2. That kind of a surprise. Number 91 is Splashdown. There was a Splashdown game? It's a jet ski racing game on the PS2. It looks kind of fun. It looks like a spiritual successor to like Jet Moto, you know what I mean? Like you got the Jet Moto series in the PS1, and then it sort of continued with Splashdown. I mean, it looks fun. It looks like a cool game. Number 92 is Ace Combat 5, The Unsung War. I never got into the Ace Combat series, so that one I don't remember. Number 93 is The Warriors. I mean, I think this was a Rockstar published game. This was based on the film. I remember when this came out because like the movie. They started showing the movie again on Spike TV, and it was kind of like this renewed hype with the Warriors film. And it was part of that mid-2000s, like, trying to bring back stuff from the late 70s, early 80s. They were trying to bring that era back. And I don't know, I mean, the Warriors video game, I mean, it looks like a fun game. I never really got into it, so I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a well-received game. I don't know if it should be in the top 100. Alright, number 94, PsyOps. The Mindgate Conspiracy. This one I heard a lot about. This is like where you get to control the stuff, get to control like objects and stuff, almost like a Half-Life kind of thing. Never got into it though. I had opportunities to buy this game over the years, but I just never got I never bought this game. I never got a chance to. You know, I never went through with it. So it looks like a cool game, though. I wish I got a chance to play it. Number 95 is Splinter Cell Double Agent. You guys know how I feel about Splinter Cell, and this one is Double Agent. I mean, I don't know why there's so many Splinter Cell games on this list. You know what I'm saying? There's so many good games that haven't been included yet in this freaking list. It's kind of embarrassing. You got this Gaia 2 at number 96. Valkyria Profile 2, number 97. Escape from Monkey Island at number 98. Number 99 is Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I thought was it was okay. You know, this was just like with Up Your Arsenal. I played this game online around like late 2009, so around the time when the servers were, you know, the very last days of the PS2 server still being up. You know, at least, you know, the PS2 server was on its way out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody was playing online anymore. And so, you know, I messed with Star Wars Battlefront 2. I think there was maybe like 20 people online still that was still playing Battlefront 2, so that was kind of surprising. The game itself is okay. I think I enjoyed the first one better. I enjoyed Battlefront 1 better on the original Xbox, and I think I still have this game. I still have a Battlefront game on the PSP. You know what I'm saying? One of the PSP spin-offs. So, I mean, it's okay. You know, it's very chaotic, a lot of characters, a lot of stages and stuff, and they really try to make you relive these battles, but at the same time, I felt like the action itself was very, it's not that great. It's not that exciting. It's not that fun. It's not as fun as like a shooter like Time Splitters. It's not as fun as, you know, Project Snowblind or any of those other games. So, Battlefront 2, but, you know, it's more of a third-person shooter anyway. You know, it's not so much, I guess you could say it's also a first-person shooter. It's kind of a hybrid game and a multiplayer thing. I guess it's best enjoyed with, like, you know, 100 people or something like that, but, yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's not the best Star Wars game. I prefer, what the heck was it called? Revenge of the Sith. That's my favorite Star Wars game on the PS2 is... Yeah, that kind of a hack and slasher, or I guess, like a beat 'em up, like an action game on the PS2. That was based on the film that came out in 2005. I like Revenge of the Sith. That's a Star Wars game that I don't want to get rid of. You know, I still have that in my collection. Yeah, it doesn't matter if people, you know, you can go on Metacritic and maybe has some low scores. You know, maybe it doesn't have like a perfect perfect scores or high scores like Battlefront 2, but I would rather play Revenge of the Sith any time than Battlefront 2. That game is way more fun. I think that's in one of my underrated lists somewhere, probably. You know, one of my underrated PS2 games. And number 8, to finally close this list of this top 100 greatest PS2 games, is Resident Evil Code Veronica X. I liked it. I talked about it in my Halloween edition. I enjoyed it. You know, I thought it was kind of a fun game. There were some cool moments in it. I love the zombie dogs. That was kind of freaky. I like the old school feel of it. Still has a little bit of that 90s legacy, that 90s gameplay of fixed camera angles, slow running, and kind of a creepy, spooky storyline. And, you know, you feel underpowered the whole game, which is what Resident Evil, I think, is all about. Even though I did enjoy, you know, the later third-person style games. Code Veronica X I thought was a pretty good game. I don't know if I'd include it in the top 100. You know, it's a solid game. Yeah, it's not bad. You know, it's probably better than some of the other ones on this list, some of the other games. I think that overall, so that's it for that particular list. There's, I think, a little too much like games that are repeating of the franchises. Like they got like a couple of this Gaia, they got a couple of Star Wars games, they got a couple of Silent Hill games, a couple of like franchises that I've never really played or gotten into, or just games that I never I thought was particularly impressive. Like they had a couple of highly ranked Gran Turismo. You know, put Gran Turismo up there. Like, you got to be kidding me with Gran Turismo. It's so overrated, guys. Like, I have no... God, what is that? That other game that I liked on the PS2. What is that? The Rockstar racing game. God, what is that? Whatever. I'm a little bit surprised that the Guitar Hero never made it. I don't think they ever included Guitar Hero here on this list, because I think like Guitar Hero 2 came out on the PS2, right? Yeah, Guitar Hero 1, of course, came out on the PlayStation 2. The first one, I think, came out in 2005. Yes, it came out in 2005, the first one, and then the second one came out in 2006. You know, so the sequel, which is like highly well received, well reviewed, and it didn't even make this stupid list. Well, I shouldn't say stupid, you know, it is somebody else's list, and, you know, it's from Metacritic or whatever, but there's definitely some other games here that I would have included. There's a lot of titles that they basically missed out on, like they did not include. Like, they didn't include some of my favorites. God Hand, I thought was really cool. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was a really fun game. You know, not the best game of all time, but it's not included here. They have you know, PS2 had Urban Beatdown, I think Urban Beatdown or something like that. Yeah, Beatdown, I should say. Beatdown, yeah, Beatdown was another one. Not Urban Beatdown, but Beatdown, the one that is more of a beat 'em up game. I have it on the Xbox, but it also came out on the PS2, and it got really high scores. You know what I'm saying? It got high scores from the fans, maybe not so much from the stupid critics. You know what I'm saying? But Guitar Hero 2 is another one that got, you know, really high scores, and it's not included in this list. Yeah, so overall, there's a lot of titles that they did not include that I'm kind of disappointed they didn't have in there. Didn't have Black in there, which I think is one of the better first-person shooters. You know, very stylistic. They didn't have, goodness gracious, what's the other one? That Sniper Elite. Didn't have Sniper Elite for the PS2, which is a really fun sniper game. You know, that's kind of a fun title. World War II classic. You know, so there's a few really cool games that they just did not include here, which really stinks, but what do you expect? You know, it's Metacritic, they got their own thing going, they got their own criteria, and, you know, maybe someday, I think one day I'll make my own 100 greatest PS2 games of all time, or maybe not that much, maybe top 30, top 40, something like that. I'll make my own list sometime in the future, and, you know, I guess that's it for this episode of the Review Space. This is a really long one. Thank you guys for watching, and check out the channel for more videos and vlogs and reviews and things like that. And until next time, peace.